Hello. Let me just make sure that's working. Oh, it is. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet, and I work at the Department for Education. I've been around in government for a while, and my role in the Department for Education has nothing directly to do with digital, and it's the first time I've had a role like that for a few years. My role is I'm Director of Major Projects, so I'm responsible for all the big projects that we do in DFE that include things about where you learn. This isn't working. Goddamn thing. Hang on a sec. There you go. Where you learn, what you learn, how you learn it, who teaches you, all that kind of stuff. We've got projects to do with all of that kind of thing. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about why I want to do that role, why am I working not in digital, and how what we're trying to do is apply digital ways of working to all of those things. I'm going to talk about why it's all about everything, not just websites, why that is, how we've been going about this in the Department for Education, and a couple of reflections. So first of all, it's about everything. I'm going to give up on that like Sarah did. So the point of digital, I reckon, is to change absolutely everything. Does anybody disagree with me? That's what the point is. Martha had it right all those years ago when she wrote the report that established GDS, and she called it revolution, not evolution. And what she meant was, don't just make incremental change, make things a little bit better, make massive change, and don't just do it on a few little things, do it absolutely everywhere. I adore Martha, and she was totally right on this, as she has been right on many other things. So digital is a Trojan horse, which quite obviously is what that is. And what you do in a Trojan horse is you go in disguise in your Trojan horse going, we're just here to have a look at your website, and then you get out and go, we're now going to change up all your shit. But you have to make sure you actually get out of the horse, and that's what I'm doing by doing this job at DFE. I'm getting out of the horse, and I'm changing up all the shit. So that's what that's all about. And I'm now outed myself, having been in disguise for the last year in DFE, doing that thing. Not very heavy disguise, though. So I reckon there's 4 stages of digital government, and I did a talk about this at Service Design and Government last year. So if you want to see a bit more about it, you can see it there. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of my reckon. So I reckon you start with pre-digital, and when you're in the pre-digital stage, what you care about is social media, and that's what digital means to you. This thing happens when I talk, which is that I get excited and my nose runs. So that's why I'm sniffing, and in a minute I'm going to have to admit defeat and get my tissue out. But for now, I'm just going to plow on as though it's not happening. So stay with me on that, okay? The next stage is rationalize, and what we care here about is improved content, maybe putting it all in one place, maybe making our forms work better for people, very important work. And we're all about doing things more efficiently at this stage, which remove waste, remove duplication, do things simpler, clearer, and faster, like we were trying to do on gov.uk when we set it up all those years ago. But that is not the point of digital, just to do those things. The next stage, which is where we're at now in GDS, is thinking about how do we integrate all the things? How do we make coherent end-to-end services for people? And it's really welcome to see the steps that have been made in DFE, where I'm from. By the way, we've got a little set of people outside sharing some of our work too, so do talk to them. This is one of our services. There's loads of services all around government now, doing end-to-end coherent service design for people. And this is about doing things differently, not just more efficiently, but differently and better. But that is also not what the point of digital is, for me. The point of digital is the really exciting bit, the reboot. And the reboot is where you reinvent government for the digital age, just as Star Trek was reinvented for the 21st century. If you don't get that, blame James. He thinks the Star Trek reboot is highly relevant, and I don't watch it, so that's how that goes. So the reboot is all about doing different things altogether. It's not about being more efficient, it's not about doing things differently. We're not talking about digital government anymore, we're just talking about government. And, maybe controversially, we're not just talking about services anymore, we're talking about absolutely everything. Why is that important? Because if we obsess about services, we try and shoehorn everything government does into service language, and it doesn't make sense to people who are doing things in government that aren't really services, like making laws, making big policy decisions, doing regulation and stewardship, like looking after the school system, which is what we do in DFE, and doing enforcement. You can't really say that enforcement is a service in the same way that paying your taxes might be. So we need to deal with all of this stuff, not just the services. And we need to make government into all of these beautifully arranged, slightly increasing in size words. But I haven't chosen them for that reason. I've chosen them because they're the correct words to describe what any organisation needs to be like in the digital age. And it all starts, of course, with putting users at the heart of everything that you do. So we need digital skills and tools and ways of working for everyone in the organisation. And I'm talking here about government, but my reckon is this applies to pretty much any organisation at all. So if you're not from government, just make a leap of imagination and think about which things we have in common as I go through the rest of this talk. So I'm here to change everything, just to make that absolutely clear. I'm not just here to mess around with pixels, although I do like doing that too. Why is that important? So as I said, being user-centered is the starting point for all of this. Because if you don't do that, you might as well not bother being fast and responsive and all the other things. You want to put users at the heart of what you do. Why is that a good idea? Well, you'll do less things that are a really terrible idea, because you'll realize they're a terrible idea before you actually release them onto unsuspecting humans. Things will work better for people, you'll cock it up less, and there'll be less waste. So that's pretty obviously something that we should all just do, isn't it? I'm going to have to give up. I'm just going to have to admit defeat. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. Didn't happen. Nobody saw it. Can't prove anything. OK. So why is government not just doing this then? Well, here's some reasons. One of the reasons is the way government works was designed for the pre-internet era. And so we do things like policy. And what policy is having thoughts and writing them down, in summary, and also talking to some people about them. And we also deal with stakeholders. And the reason we deal with stakeholders, they are really at the forefront of what we do a lot in government. And the reason we do that is because we invented stakeholders when we couldn't talk to people at scale. And we couldn't do experiments with people at scale because there's no internet to do that on. So we had to talk to stakeholders who would tell us their opinions about what they thought the users they claimed to represent might need. And lots of failure in government has happened because of that. But that was an entirely rational thing to do in a pre-internet era where it just wasn't possible to talk to people at scale and get their views and find out what was going on. And the other thing about government is we solve every single problem in government, we reckon, can be solved by two things: drafting things better and handling stakeholders better. And basically, those are the two fundamental skills of your generalist civil servant. And we reckon in government that if we do that well, we'll succeed. And by succeed, what I mean is the law will be passed, the consultation document will be published, we'll get away with it without being on the front page of the Daily Mail, which is the main metric of success in government. And this all happened because of this era. This is the 19th century. The point of ministers at that time was seen to be to tell the civil servants what the public thought. So we had politicians who found out what the public really cared about and what they thought, and then went to Whitehall and acted on it faithfully and effectively. So how is that working out for you right now? Representative democracy, what's going on there? But that's for another talk. So that's how government's designed, and then there are some reasons about the humans who actually work in government. We don't actually know how to be user-centered, a lot of us. Most of the people who are working in government have not heard of user-centered design, I'm afraid. And that's because it's not relevant to them. We haven't made it relevant to them. They think it's for people in jeans and Converse trainers who are sitting in the digital team over there. And that's because we in the digital community have created that impression. So we haven't told everybody else how to do it yet. And it's really scary. And it's really scary particularly if you haven't been talking to your users very much or thinking about them. The first time you do it, it's an absolute shit show because they unleash all the complaints that they would have made had you talked to them all the way along. So you have to kind of push on through that pain barrier. And it is painful and upsetting to discover that what you've done didn't actually work for people and is causing them pain. These are all rational reasons, I should say. So when I'm saying this, I'm not doing it to kind of belittle anybody. I'm saying the way that government works has arisen as a set of rational responses to the situation that people found themselves in. So when I was in GDS, in the early days, we used to describe the way government did things. And the way government does things, the traditional way is along the top, and the new way is along the bottom. And this was to do with transactions and services. So what we said was, the way things happen in government, which is rubbish, is that we make up a policy, and then we spec out the requirements, and then we probably outsource it to somebody else to deliver the thing. And then it gets delivered, and then eventually we unleash it on users. I nearly said losers then, Freudian slip. There you go, losers. And see what happens then. And what we were saying in GDS is, don't do that, involve users all the way through, find out what they need. These are users, every single stage, find out what they need, iterate, make things better. So I've had some experience in different government departments now, and I've had some insight into how this actually works in practice. and also in things which are not services. So I'm just going to share that with you. So what happens is, these are policy people, happy, smiling. What they're doing is making announcements, or helping their ministers to make announcements, and they're having thoughts. I should have said at the beginning, by the way, I'm not a designer, but I do like colours. So forgive me. Don't judge me. The problem with these policy people is they're behind a very big wall, which that clearly is one of. A big, thick wall with no windows or doors in it. And then on the other side of the wall, here are some people trying to deliver services to people working in job centres, for example. And the problem here is, as you can see, there's a big wall between these two sets of people. And they actually have a very different worldview and come from very different communities and have very different ideas about how to do things. And even if they want to communicate with each other, it's quite difficult. So the medium of choice for communicating between policy people and delivery people is the hand grenade. And what that is the grenade of policy ideas. And what you do is you lob your grenade over the wall, and then you just carry on making more announcements. And the poor delivery people over here, unfortunately, have gone from having smiley faces to sad ones, just in case you didn't get that point of detail. And that's when it works well. Sometimes it doesn't even work that well. What happens is you make your policy, and before it even leaves the policy arena, it just blows up. And that's the front page of the Daily Mail, right there. And I have been there, and it is not a good place to be, let me tell you. And when I say all of this, I am not blaming policy people. I want to be really clear about this. It's not their fault. The Prime Directive tells us that everyone is doing the best with the information that they have available to us. And I've got to tell you that's true of policy people. It's not just digital people who do their best with the information available to them. There are others who do that too. Sometimes. So that's why I want to change absolutely everything immediately. And we should all want to do that, right? So in DFE, we have been trying to change everything. And I'm going to explain a bit about how we've done that. And the question we've been trying to answer is, how are we going to make it just normal and universal in our organization for people to put users at the heart of everything they do? Not just when they're making digital services or dealing with websites, but absolutely everything, making laws, doing regulation, doing enforcement, everything. So we've defined being user-centered as being, we know who all our users are, and the word all is really important there. So we go out of our way to discover the full range of all our users, and we understand what they need, and we can meet those needs. We think that's a fair description of what we think we mean by user-centered. And we're using the word users on purpose. We had a debate about this, about whether to just say humans or people. And the reason we haven't is because we're trying to differentiate between users who have to use our services or have to interact with us in some way or are affected directly by what we do, and other people. For example, stakeholders. They are not users. Stakeholders have opinions. And it's important to understand what those opinions are, because if you don't, then they will put you on the front page of the Daily Mail and your thing will be shut down. So you need to understand what their opinions are, and you need to respect them, you need to deal with them. But they're not users. They're not necessary, or they may not be users. And the other people who are not users are ministers. Ministers are not users. Ministers are very important. They're our political masters, and they must be respected, and we must talk to them, and we must respect what it is that they want to do politically. But they're not users, and they definitely shouldn't be telling you what colour the button should be on the website. So that's who we think the users are, and that's why we're using the phrase users rather than humans, as you might see in other contexts. But that is a bit contested within DFE. And what we did was we identified, and what we tried to do is distill all our collective experience and that of the wider community. Lots of people contributed to this online, for which we were really grateful. And we distilled that into 6 user-centered practices. And this is what they are. And our theory is, you can apply these 6 user-centered practices born in digital and user-centered design to absolutely anything at all that you do in an organization like the Department for Education or any other bit of government. So I'm going to run through these quick and tell you what they are and tell you some examples of how we've applied these in other places than digital. So the first one is define the outcome. Define the outcome, though, from the point of view of your users, not as a vague statement of overall intent. So driving forward an ambitious social mobility agenda is not a statement of clear intent, because it doesn't tell you what outcome you're trying to actually achieve. Maybe you're trying to make it easier for unemployed young people to get a job. That's a bit more specific. You can tell if you've done that or not. Maybe you're trying to reduce the number of people who are young and unemployed. That's an actual outcome that you're trying to achieve. And unless you define that outcome, you can't possibly be user-centered. because you don't know what you're trying to do for your users, and you'll just be led by kind of random bits of feedback. And that's how agile projects sometimes get lost, actually. So what we're trying to do, this is really obvious, right? You should obviously have this process set out for anything that you do. You should obviously, if you're going to do some inputs, you should obviously work out then what's the process, what are the outputs, and what are the outcomes we're trying to achieve. It's astonishing how much of the stuff we do in government we do without having ever mapped out this simple thing here. And what we tend to do instead is focus on the inputs. So the policy announcement is we're going to spend 20 billion on the NHS. Isn't that great? Well, I don't know, because I don't know what you're going to spend it on, or why, or what you're trying to achieve by doing that. Or we focus on the outputs. So I think universal credit is an example of this, where we said we're going to build this thing called universal credit. But it has remained contested throughout the life of that project what the actual point is of doing it. And so time and time again, that piece of work has been derailed by a change of view about what we're trying to achieve because we didn't define the outcome from users' point of view at the beginning. So the first thing, define the outcome. Next thing, understand your users. Start with user needs. That's a common mantra. And Matt referred to this earlier. We came up with this when I was working in NHS Digital, but you can apply it more broadly. So user needs consist not just of the specific transactional need that the person has, which is why they're interacting with you, but also their emotional needs. And that's really important in government because very frequently, the reason somebody's coming to government is because they're worried about something. So the reason parents want to find out stuff from the Department of Education is because they're worried about their kids. And the reason people want to go on the NHS website is because they're worried about their health. So if you don't take account of that, you're going to mess it up. And they also have practical needs, and Sarah's just been talking about that really fantastically well, about the different practical needs that different people have. And all of those combine to make up somebody's user needs. But that in itself, that's necessary, but not sufficient. Because I don't know about you, but I don't really see myself as just a collection of needs. I can be a bit needy, but that's not all I am. There's more to me than my needs. I managed to persuade James of this recently, and he's actually married me. Idiot. Mwahaha. Needy Janet. But nobody here is just a collection of user needs, right? Are you at any given time? You have a context, you have a backstory, you have all sorts of other things going on in your life. So we need to go out of our way to understand what is life actually like for the teachers that we're trying to help, or for the head teachers, or for the learners. And then we need to work out what's already known, which we often just ignore. And I'm afraid we often do this in digital teams in particular, because we think, although somebody else has done some research, it was probably a bit rubbish, because it wasn't done by proper user researchers. But analysts and other researchers can actually do useful things, I've discovered. And we should look at it and find out what nuggets there are in the stuff that they've done. And then we should work out how to find out what else we need to know. And we miss out these steps. We just dive in and start going on with stuff. And that's not being user-centered. That's just being reckless and wasteful. And we have to be mindful there aren't really any new problems. Not really. Most things that we're working on in government or in any organization, they're not really that new. Loads of people have tried stuff before. So we should learn from what others have done. This is my favorite one. We need to test assumptions. So what's missing in this picture, and is missing from an awful lot of what we do in government, is what are the assumptions that need to be true for this process to actually happen, as I've laid it out here. And I've got a really lovely example from DFE. But before I go on to that, this is my fact about how much policy failure happens because of assumptions. And if anybody here thinks they can prove that wrong, then have a go. It could even be higher than that. Who knows? So individual learner accounts are absolute cataclysmic shambles of a thing that happened in the Department for Education, and we're going to own that failure in the DFE, and we're going to talk about it, because what we did was we introduced a thing that was supposed to help young people find training that would help them get better jobs. But what we did was we designed an entire scheme without really trying it out. Well, actually, we did try it out. We did some pilots. They didn't work. We ignored it, and we just did it anyway. And the reason we ignored it was because the thing had been announced in the manifesto of the Labour government in 1997. So if you in government have a thing that's announced in a manifesto, you basically have to do it, even if it's a terrible idea. That's how it works. I don't know what we're going to do about that. It's just really bad. Because you go to the Treasury and you go, we did this pilot, it didn't work. And they go, manifesto. And it's like top trumps or Mornington Crescents. That's the end of the game. They've mentioned the manifesto. So individual learner accounts, they were supposed to help young people. The idea was you have an account, you put 20 quid on or something, and you get like 100 quid to help you pay for a course. And to lower the barriers to entry, to make it simpler, clearer, and faster before it was fashionable, you didn't have to do anything to prove your identity if you were a learner. And you didn't even have to do it yourself. It could be done by the training provider. And for the training provider, there was no quality assurance at all. And we wanted to encourage loads more training providers to come on board. And some of the assumptions we made were, number one, young people with no skills will access the internet independently, create an account, seek out a course, sign up for the course, submit a claim to get this money, get the money, complete the course, and then get another job. So that's about 20 assumptions that I just listed right there. Who wants to guess how many of those we actually tested before we released the scheme? None. Yes, not a single one. And we also assumed that because each account wasn't worth very much money, that no fraudsters wouldn't be interested. And all of the... who's going to defraud like for 100 quid? It's not worth it, is it? So all the lovely middle-class civil servants, who never occurred to them to commit fraud, did a risk assessment and went, nah, no one's going to do that, are they? And so the project was launched. It was a runaway success. Hundreds of thousands of people signing up, way beyond our wildest dreams. Oh dear. There were a few teething problems. We always have teething problems. We didn't bother to investigate them. We just went, oh, teething problems. Never mind. Headlines, awesome. Manifesto, tick, excellent. And then it became clear that people were having problems. And people were having problems with the quality of the courses. People had been signed up to courses they weren't actually doing. And actually, we had to shut the scheme down. And that's quite a dramatic thing to do. It wasn't just the Daily Mail that got the headline on that one. But the thing that gets talked about this example a lot is that we wasted £100 million on fraud. Because fraudsters basically, without ever talking to you, just registered you for loads of courses that didn't exist. And there were like thousands and thousands of non-existent people and courses. But the actual scandal of this was the other 200 million that we spent was spent on basically middle-class white people who already had degrees and perfectly good jobs. So not the target audience, the people who were supposed to be benefiting, only like 10% of the people who actually accessed this thing were those people. So £300 million wasted because of untested assumptions. So yeah, test your assumptions would seem like a good idea. Number 4 is involve users. Not just observe them and then like look at them in a lab and do things to them and then kind of release stuff on them, but actually involve them. So the teacher recruitment and retention strategy, I wouldn't normally get excited about a strategy, but this one is so exciting because it's got the best piece of feedback I've ever seen about a piece of government strategy. And here it is. A noteworthy thing about this strategy is the absence of batshit crazy ideas. It's a low bar for government, but most fail at it, and I'm afraid that is true, as Matt said earlier. No batshit crazy ideas. Why is that? Because we developed the strategy with people who were going to be actually affected by it. So we asked teachers, why are you leaving? What's making your life hard? What could we do to make it easier? And we asked them, what would make you stay? What would make you think about staying? And as a result, we've now got stuff that we're doing that's not batshit crazy, and hopefully won't fail. Observe actual behaviour. I'm going to skip over this one, because we all know this, right? This is an important thing. But we do it for digital services. We don't really do it for anything else, and I don't know why not. Here's a team I used to be part of many years ago with the lovely Pete Gale, watching some users in a lab using our thing. And then the final one is deliver, test, learn, and adapt. And what's interesting about this one is, so we want to iterate services. We all do that in digital services, don't we? But you can't possibly do that when you're building a school, can you? Well, actually, it turns out you can. If you've got a programme of school buildings which stretches to several billion pounds, and you're going to build hundreds or refurbish hundreds over several years. Because what you can do then is, each time you build a school, you can see how it's used and iterate it for the future. So I'll tell you a quick story about this. In DFE, when we first started our first programme to build and refurbish schools, we thought it would be a great idea to get head teachers involved. And we paired them with architects. And what happened was, some really good schools were built, very expensively, and some really unusual designs came out. So for example, one school wanted to have both a library and a running track, and to optimize space, they made the running track go through the middle of the library. That's an actual true fact. Other schools wanted to have partitions so that they could, in theory, open up the classrooms and use big spaces. They were never used, they were really expensive, and they made it really noisy in both classrooms, because there's no noise insulation with those kind of things. So we stopped doing that, and instead we now we do evaluation of each school after we build it to see how it's being used. And we've developed patterns now for how to build schools, what colour to paint them, what size of classroom to have, how to lay them out. And we use those for each school. And the result of that is they're better and they cost 35% less to build, which is amazing, really. You're talking about billions of pounds here, so we're talking about actual extra schools that we can build because of taking a user-centered iterative approach. So if anybody tells you iteration is only for Agile and only for websites, that's not true. So those are our 6 user-centered practices. How do we make that change? We've got loads of staff across loads of sites doing loads of different things. And basically, this is a YAP triangle. Chris Yap made it up. I love it. I only discovered it recently, and I use it about 40 times a day at the moment. It's like when I like a record and I listen to it to death and I get sick of it. So next time you see me, I'll be like, yeah, the YAP triangle, rubbish. But for now, I love it. And what the idea is, you have to choose whether you're going to have the change now, everywhere, or by agreement. You can't have all those things. And you have to choose your method accordingly. So in DFE, we really want to do this by agreement, because we reckon that if you do it by setting rules and people don't understand why and don't think it's important and haven't agreed to it, then they're going to work around the rules and ignore them. And we've had plenty of experience of that before in other areas where we have these things called policy tests and nobody ever does anything meaningful with them at all. You just tick the box, done. So for that reason, we've emphasized having discussions and running experiments rather than setting rules. We've had a structured conversation in every single team in the organization going through those 6 practices and thinking about how they might apply for that team. We offered a whole load of different training. About half the staff in the organization took part in training on things like how to do that logic model that I showed you, or how to do user research. And we help pioneers. We find pioneers and help them, which sounds obvious. But actually, the experience of being a pioneer in government, if you've ever done it, is really very lonely. And the fear of the front page of the Daily Mail is real and will meet you at every turn in the form of whataboutery from people saying, what about this? What about that? What about the other? It is absolutely exhausting. So we help pioneers in DFE. We find them and we go, you're awesome. How can we help you? And it really makes a difference for people. So that's how we've been trying to do it. And my 2 final reflections I want to make before I stop. And I might have time for questions, I'm not sure. So the problem with this approach of doing it by agreement is, I'm not super patient. And I want it all to happen right now. So I'm a little bit like, for the love of God, how long is this going to take? It's going to take, and the answer is, it's going to take generations. So there's no point getting all impatient and going, seriously, how long have we been at this? Can't we just get on with it? This is going to take a long time. It's a generational thing. If we wanted to do it now, we'd have to set rules. And as I said, we think that doing that prematurely will just result in people working around them and ignoring them. And it won't actually get the change we want to happen. So this is really hard for me because I'm an impatient soul and I want to change everything immediately. But we have to just be patient. And my second reflection point is, when we think of policy people, we tend to diss them pretty readily and talk about bowler hats and idiots and do things like this that maybe could be seen as disrespectful towards them, although I did emphasize it's not their fault. And we pull this face at them. We go, what, were you dropped on your head as an infant? Are you completely stupid? That's the face that that's the face that policy people see when digital people turn up in their Converse trainers and their MacBooks going, yeah, haven't you heard of user-centered design? Idiot. And funnily enough, people don't really respond very well to that. It's weird, isn't it? You wouldn't have thought that. They're not idiots. And also, even if you think they are idiots, they hold a lot of power. So, treat them like idiots if you want, if that's how you feel, but they have a lot of power and they will stop you doing things, and they can stop you doing things, and they won't listen to you. They get approached by people with wacky ideas 100 times a week. And this is what they see when they see digital people coming at them. So you know. So you see a bowler hat, they see dickhead on a skateboard. And they think, well, you'll be here for a few months, and then you'll go back to, Google or whatever. Whatever, see you later. So we extend in our user-centered practice a lot of respect and generosity and patience to our users, don't we? But we don't do the same. We don't extend the same generosity and respect and patience to our colleagues. And all of us started from a position, every single person here started from a position of not getting being user-centered. I know I did. And we have to respect other people who haven't got it yet and just recognize they haven't got it yet. But that means they're there for the turning and there for the persuading. So those are my reflections. P.S. We're hiring in DFE. So, if you like what you see, come and have a chat. And that's me done. Thank you.